Hello and welcome to this webinar, Driving Productivity and Profitability in the Supply Chain with Produmex WMS. Amanda here from Mike Channel Marketing, and I'm joined by Gil Vandenhouw, and he is the Solutions Architect at WM. And he's been kind enough to be with us at 1 o'clock in the morning in Belgium, so we're very grateful for that. And also with me, I have Ketan Solanki, our SAP Business One Manager. So Gil is going to take us through Produmex and show us how to transform your logistical process. And Ketan will be around to help out with questions at the end. So take it away, Gil. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Yeah, so welcome everyone. My name is Gil Vandenhouw. I'm a solution advisor architect for Produmex WMS IT. Started as a developer, then did some consulting, and now mainly involved in training, webinars, and sales. The agenda for today, I will start by covering why you should choose Produmex WMS as your system for WMS for SAP Business One. I'll talk about how it sits within SAP Business One and the integration. We'll talk about the inbound logistics that we can handle, so everything related to purchasing, internal logistics like cycle counting and moving stock around, replenishment, production-related logistics like picking for production and booking finished product and these kind of operations. Outbound logistics, so that's mainly related to sales or to transfers, warehouse transfers, getting your stock out to your customers or your stores and doing that in the most efficient way. And then finally, we will dive into the system and have a live session. So why Produmex WMS? First of all, it was designed and certified for SAP Business One. So Produmex WMS was designed for SAP Business One and only works with SAP Business One. It's therefore completely integrated. So what does this mean? It means that there is no interfacing between the WMS and ERP, in this case, SAP Business One. It's one database and everything sits within that one database. There is support from WM and from the Produmex products on the new SAP features and the new SAP versions immediately, because we are focused on that ERP. And we have matching data throughout the system. You really can see it as one system. So everything related to orders, master data, batch numbers, serial numbers, unit of measure groups, whatever you can think of that you set up in SAP Business One will continue to enhance also your warehouse operations, and you won't have to duplicate that data anywhere. It's the second main argument is that it's a very mature solution. It's been in development for 14 years now. I've been with the company for almost 10 of those years. And we have it built based on proven best practices, which means that we have a bunch of customers that have asked us in certain years, when we were working 2 years, they asked us to improve a certain process because they think it can be better. Then we work with them to make and ensure that we come up with the best potential process. And that's what you have now in the system to ensure maximum productivity and to avoid making mistakes. This can support quite simple to very complex logistical processes. Simple is order by order. Very complicated, we might have 10 different kinds of customers. Export needs to be treated differently than domestic customers, and very complex processes that might be involved with that. It's very flexible. So it's one solution that you buy, and it can be tailored to your needs to fit exactly all the processes that you want to have in the system, and not have any features there that you don't want to use. Then we will hide them and we will not give you things that you will never use. There are also some industry-specific features that we have developed together with our customer base. Some examples of that are web shop fulfillment. So we have some, like the Amazon flow, I always call it. We have a shipping under quarantine feature. That's a pharma feature that's very relevant these days with the clinical trials. We have something called shelf life management. This is related to food sales or beverages. If you want to have a long, an expiry date management, that you have to make sure that you have a long enough shelf life when you sell it out. to your customers. And there are many more of these industry-specific features, but this already gives you a good highlight of some of these features. And that shows that it is also a future-proof solution that will allow companies to grow into new types of business. That's something we actually see a lot, especially with the pandemic. We saw it a lot. Some of our customers who were selling to restaurants needed to diverge their business to now open a web shop and start selling directly to end customers. And with our system, it was no problem. We just made sure that we optimized the process just by changing some settings here and there. With the same system, they could thrive a completely different kind of business from the same building and just tailor the system to their current needs. And who knows what they might do in the future. There's also an integration with the other BOYUM IT products that you might already be familiar with, like BEAS, manufacturing solution, B1 Up, the solution that allows you to customize SAP Business One, and then BOYUM Cloud, which is the latest product line from BOYUM IT that's also integrated with the WMS. So for example, when you have inspect module from cloud, it can look at WMS data. So all of these products will be integrated into one big family. Now, we come more in detail on what does Produmex WMS add to SAP Business One, and also how is it integrated. So an example of that integration that I will show you in the live demo is the item master data sheet. There is an additional tab and there are some additional fields from the WMS that we can use. For example, we have specific features for batch and best before date management, shelf life, and first expiry, first out management. This is mainly focused on customers dealing with expirable products. Other small things that I will show you, reception remarks, some stuff that we want to show the operator when we receive an item. We have a quality module light inside where we can say a certain item has to always come in quarantine and we have to do some quality control on it. This is very popular in the pharma and the chemical industry. We have properties for labeling. And when items come in, do I want to label the pallet or the boxes or whatever we want to decide? Maybe no labels, you don't have to label. Other stuff like zone types. An example of that is we have cooled goods and those have to be stored in the fridge. So then we have specific zones for that. Another example is we have very heavy items and we need to restrict where they can go. So therefore we can also use zone types and limit movement of specific goods. Or we can have default bins and zones on an item where we would like to put it there, but if there's no room, then we can put it somewhere else. So there are many approaches to this problem. Then I will show you the organizational structure. This is the heart of the WMS, where we will define also your business plan or what your business looks like, the docks that you have where the trucks can come to unload goods or load goods. We have the bins, of course, the bin locations that we will use. We have zones, zone types, production lines, etc. There's a lot more. I will show it to you once we get into the system. And this houses all those flexible settings that make it that this software can run in a web shop fulfillment that is selling lighting fixtures, which has nothing to do with batch numbers or traceability. And we are in food industry where traceability is king, and that's the most important thing to have. So this is the flexible system that allows you to run across all these different industries, and that's what I will show you. Then we will look at an inbound logistics example. So we will buy some product and receive it. So I will show you the goods reception process. We'll do a simple example based on a purchase order. There are many other possibilities. I won't be able to cover everything. We have limited time. And I will create some pallet labels and we will have a look what that looks like. It's a GS1 standard. It's a global standard of labeling that houses specific barcode characteristics. After we've received it, we will do a put away process. And so we will receive it in our receiving area. And then once we maybe checked if the goods are good, we labeled them, then we will put them away into our inventory. And there the system can also help with what we call put away suggestions. It can tell us where we should put the pallet by zone, by bin. It can do it per pallet or per box, or it can do it item by item. If you have to break up a pallet and set every item on its specific location, then that could be possible as well. Maybe you do it in one step and you don't have 2 steps, but you receive it from a truck and immediately drive it to the location. That's possible as well. So that shows you the flexibility of the system. Internal logistics, I will go quite fast over this. This is what most WMS systems can do. We can check stocks, like where is something, how much do I have, which location. We can do cycle counting, year-end inventory, or throughout operations, like I want to confirm when I pick the last piece to make sure that it's physically empty, these kind of things. There are all kinds of quality features. So giving you the ability to quarantine something, or if something got damaged, we can keep it in stock, but we can give it the damaged status, so we know that we don't want to sell it to a customer, or maybe we want to sell it to a specific discount to another customer. That's what the shipping under quarantine also allows you to do. And then these are the features that we have on there. We can move stock, of course. We can do consolidated moves, like moving multiple pallets in one go because we are moving to another building or something. And then another thing is pick bin replenishment, where we might have open pallets here where we can take pieces, and we have full pallets here that are still wrapped. And I might want to have an operation for the forklift driver to, on a timely basis, bring down pallets to the pick location, so we have enough stock available to do the picking maybe later in the day. That's also something that the WMS can plan for you. We can do label printing and many other features that relate to the internal logistics. Then related to production, it's not something that I'm going to show you in the demo due to limited time, but I will highlight you what we can offer. We can assign a production order to a WMS production line. So there's a concept that's a WMS production line. It has an input and an output location where we produce these goods. So we need to pick certain components from the warehouse, maybe to the production area. This can be a shared area, can be dedicated per line. One area could be shared across 2 lines, whatever. We can optionally, we don't have to do this, move product from the input to the production line itself. This is mainly for contamination reasons that some customers need this, like we want to know the exact moment that I put in this vitamin powder or something. It's mainly a pharma requirement. Time registration on the floor. If you're dealing with a bottling operation, you want to know how much time you spent on cleaning the machine and getting it set up. It's something we can have being registered on the floor on a tablet, for example, or also on a scanner. It's something that we can do there. We have a feature that we can use. It's called lined up locations, usually referred to as a WIP or work in progress location. It's usually something where we can dump a bunch of components that we use very regularly, like packaging materials, and that we want to have the system automatically consume it. It's similarly to a backflush from standard SAP, but it can do a lot more than what standard SAP can do. We can receive a finished product, of course, and then print all necessary labels and pallet labels that we might need for it. We can auto-consume from these lined up locations, like I mentioned earlier. We have something called waste management, where we can differentiate what did we really use and what did we waste. And both of them need to get issued because we need to have correct stock management and also cost allocation. And then at the end, we can manually or automatically issue components, and again, manually or automatically close the production order once we reach a certain quantity or whatever. So these are the main operations related to production that we can offer out of the box. Then we come to the final slides on the outbound operations. First step will be to create the pick lists. This is very different than what standard SAP Business One does. In standard SAP Business One, there is no such thing as a hard stock allocation. In this WMS, there is. So the moment that we create a pick list for a customer, it ensures that we cannot sell this stock to another customer. Even if you would try it in manual Business One by booking a delivery, you will get an error saying you cannot deliver this to that customer because it's reserved for another customer. We can do these allocations automatically. We can do them manually. There are many features there. We can even reserve stock for a customer that didn't even place an order yet, because we know in a month he might put in a big order and I want to make sure that I hold enough stock for him. So all of these features are available also from the WMS. Once we create a pick list, it can automatically allocate batches. If we use batches, FIFO. If we don't use batches, we can also do FIFO based on pallet numbers. So even then we can ensure that you have good stock rotation. If we deal with expirable product and we want FIFO, first expired, first out, we have something called country or customer specific shelf lives. So if you would sell to Australia, maybe you're good with 1 year shelf life, but if you sell to New Zealand or to another country that needs to be transported, then we might have to have longer shelf lives. The system can automatically allocate the correct batches. We have something called a pick list proposal manager, which is very similar to the pick and pack manager from standard SAP Business One, which is a screen that allows you to make these pick lists and these reservations and these proposals, as we call it. It allows you to group it and everything. But we also have something called a pick list robot, which these days is something we use on almost every implementation because it's so powerful. And I will also show you in the demo. It's a tool that we can launch on a time scale every half an hour, every X time, that will automatically look at the new stock that came in, the new orders that came in, and which potential pick list can be generated, and it will just generate them automatically. It's very flexible because it's based on a view, like a query that you could choose yourself, like these customers need to get priority. So it's very flexible to follow the rules that you would normally manually follow. Once these pick lists have been created, we can dive into the picking, packing, and shipping process itself. So there we have the most features available. And there are about 70 different ways to get from a sales order to a delivery, depending on what your physical operation is. The example that I will show you, I will explain it later, but here's is a quick overview of the possibilities. Full pallet picking, if you are in distribution and you're replenishing your stores, maybe you're sending out full pallets, or you are sending out large orders. This could be the option to go for you. Item or unit of measure picking, or a combination, and that's something I will show you. We will pick a 6-pack and then maybe 2 pieces and a combination of that, and we want to help the operator there. We will pick following the warehouse route, which usually looks like a snake, because we don't want the forklifts to be facing each other, and potential accidents that can happen. Depends, of course, on how much room you have in your building, but usually it looks like this, where we have to follow a certain movement when we are picking to ensure that we're not picking something from location A, then location C, then we have to walk back to B again, then back to A again maybe. So we don't want your warehouse operators to be walking that much, and this is the idea behind this warehouse route. Then how do we perform our picking operations? We can do it pick list by pick list, of course, one by one if it's large orders typically. We can make something called a wave, which is a group of pick lists, usually for smaller orders. If we want to do one run to get all the goods for 20 customers and then bring it to a packing area where we'll build the specific packages for the customers, that's something that I will show you later in the demo. We have zone picking, which is maybe for buildings. If you have different buildings and then we might want to split the picking operation across different buildings. It's also used in the food industry where we have frozen areas and dry goods areas that need to be separated, and the warehouse staff is not always going to change clothes. So that's something that also could be used there. And a combination of all of these features can be done. Then we have packing operations, which I will show you. It's optional. If you do one pick list at a time and you immediately build your pallet, then you maybe don't want to do a packing operation. It depends really on the way you work and the type of customers that you are fulfilling. Then at the end, we will print all the documents and labels automatically from the WMS to make sure that all our boxes go out labeled, or our pallets, depending on what you ship. So final slide is contact information from the microchannel team. I will jump onto the live system. So here we come inside the SAP Business One system. You can already see that I have the add-on running because we have the Produmex button here. It's a standard add-on like any other add-on. You can see I have 2 add-ons running. I have my Produmex running and my B1 usability package, but it's actually hidden and my dashboards are hidden, so you won't see anything from a usability package, but the Produmex add-on loader is also running. So this is what gives me that button, and it adds also a lot of other features. I will start by showing you an item master data screen. So I've prepared some beverages. So some spa bottled water, just so you know what it looks like. It's like a liter bottle of water that we sell. This is managed by batches. I've used also a unit of measure group from SAP where we have bottles and versus 6-packs. So we have the two. I didn't create the pallet because this might be dynamic. Maybe they send large pallets sometimes, small pallets the other time. So this is one that I've configured as a dynamic one. And you might already notice, if you know SAP Business One very well, that there are already some changes here. There's one field here, for example, which is added by the WMS. There are some other fields here that are added by the WMS. And if you are in a pharma customer, then it might also be interesting for you to know that with the WMS, you can now have batches and serial numbers at the same time. Standard SAP, you have to choose between one or the other, but with the WMS, it also adds the possibility to do both, which for clinical trials in pharma industry is very important. You also notice that I have a WMS tab here, which is added because I have my add-on running. And here is where the bulk of settings from the WMS are sitting. So one thing that I've enabled is that this is an expirable product. It has a best before date. I only have one batch number. I've given it a default location, like I would like that you've put it there. I haven't given it a zone type. You can see this could be classification, like this is a high seller. This can be whatever you want. You can see this is this is my demo system, which has a lot of examples in there, but this could be whatever you want it to be to group certain goods that have to go into certain zones of your warehouse. I'll quickly jump through some of the other tabs. I won't explain everything here. On sales, this is where you can see the customer or country-specific shelf life, where we can configure that. Here we have minimum stock levels, which is something to automatically reserve stock for very important customers. Something that I've added here as well is a check for my shelf life on reception. So when I receive this product, I want to make sure that we have 730 days, which is 2 years of shelf life. This is to avoid typos from the users, but also to make sure that we have a good agreement with our supplier and that they are honoring their agreement in terms of the expiry dates. I will create pallets here. For this item, that's what the SSCC creation on reception says. I could have said that I want to receive this in quarantine state, maybe quarantine for the first 3 that we receive, and then afterwards it can go through without a quality check. So this is where the quality module comes into play. We have expiry definitions where it can automatically take them. I won't jump through all of them, but we have some attributes. And I'm quickly going to jump into one other item to explain another thing. I will also sell some glasses because we might be supplying to restaurants. So we sell the water, but we also sell the glass. It's a common thing here in Belgium. I don't know how that works in Australia, but they try to be a one-stop shop, so they sell them also the glasses. These are not necessarily managed by batches, and so I've turned that off so you can see the difference between these two products and how that works. And when we look at the WMS, there is one thing that I also want to show is default quantity on logistical unit. What does this mean? It means that I know that this supplier always sends me 1,200 pieces per logistical unit. And what's a logistical unit? In my case, it's a pallet. Now, this can be whatever you want it to be. This can be a bag, this can be a box, this can be a 6-pack. It really depends on what, in my case, what you want to label. This is why I've configured it, because I want to automatically have the system label my pallet with 1,200 each. So if I receive 5,000 of them, he knows how many pallets it is, and he will automatically split out the correct amount of labels. So I'll close the item master for now. The next thing I'm going to briefly show actually refers to the background image that you can see here, which is the organizational structure, which is the core of where you build your operation. So I have a company level. It can have different warehouses. I have docks where trucks will come to either load or unload goods, or both. Dock 1 could be for both. I have bin locations that sit in zones. These dotted lines are zones. I can make sub-zones for structure. You'll see that later. I have movable locations like carts that I can use in my warehouse for picking. I have packing stations that I can define, production lines, silos, tanks, if you deal with liquids or grain, with powders, or with nuts or something like that, that's typically stored in a silo. There's a lot of other features that I won't be able to cover today, like warehouse automation and a weighing room, and there's a lot of features, but these are the main things that we will see. And of course, then the scanners and the printers and the touch screens that we will use. So I will briefly show you. I won't go too much into detail, but I open the organizational structure. I'll slide this around a bit. When I select something on the left here, it changes what I can see here on the right in terms of the configuration related to that. So I'll show you. When I select my company, I have, for example, my zone types that I've defined, my large frozen dry goods, that's all configured here. So this is where the bulk of the configuration sits. So when I open my company, I have a bunch of different warehouses. I'll go into my general warehouse. There I have some zones that I've created, mainly for structure. These are not necessarily physical zones, but mainly to structure the system. Within my storage zone, this could be related to physical zones. I could have a cooled area goods. I could have a specific bulk area. Even underneath that bulk area, I can have bulk zone 1, zone 2. You can make as many of these levels as you want. And underneath those zones sit the actual locations. Those are the yellow things that you can see here. And when I'll quickly open another one just to show you some of the possibilities. I'll open a pick location. So this is how we know that it's a bulk or a pickable location, and we can fix it to an item. We can say that on this P1 location always sits this product, this printer. I want to have a minimum of 1 piece, a maximum of 12, and then I want to replenish with 6 because I know that there are 6 in a box, and that's what I want to bring down, for example. So this gives you a brief overview of how to configure here the system to match your warehouse and how you work. Maybe you don't work with fixed items. Well, then we turn it off and you see the screen changes. Then the behavior is different, and you can put any item here. Okay, that's more or less how it works. We can, of course, push all of this in with Excel sheets. You don't have to do it manually here, but I will show you. If I want to make a new location, I just click here, new OSA. I can make a new bin. I can give it a code, a name, can set the settings that I want. I can hit OK, and that's it. I've made a new location. So all of that is done from this screen. So I'll close it for now. We'll jump into an actual process. So I will make a purchase order together with you. I could have done this in advance, but I didn't want to because I wanted to show you that I'm not doing anything special here. I'm making a standard SAP Business One purchase order. I'm going to order my beverage items that I've explained. So we'll order the water and then the glasses. So yeah, this demand, of course, comes from open sales orders, which is standard SAP, but I'm going to order a lot more. I'm going to order maybe from these bottles, let's order 480, for example. I know it's they're in 6 packs, but I don't know how many pallets this will be. And then from the glasses, I know that it's 1,200 on a pallet, but maybe I want to buy 1,500. So that means that I will get 2 pallets, 1 pallet of 1,200, and then a smaller pallet with the 300 remaining pieces on there. So that's it. Nothing else I have to do. I give in my item and I hit the add button. That's it. So now you'll see my B1 up. He was going to keep it open. That's the only thing that's my B1 up is going to do here. Then I will start off my scanner application. This application that you see here, you can see I'm running it on a Microsoft environment. This is something we run through remote desktop. I won't go into the technical details. We can explain this more in detail later if you want, but it can run on any device, typically like a Zebra scanning device where we run the software on, and it shows exactly like you can see here. That's exactly what you will also see on the handheld. So it's built for touch. You can see that with the buttons here, and I have to log in. This is with an SAP user. So my manager user that I'm using here is already licensed. It can log in. So it will also trace all the operations that are performed against this user. So everything is traced. We know who's the most productive worker. We know who's working on what. So you can already see I have 4 main menu features: purchase, sales, logistics, and production. So I will go into the purchase as I want to receive some goods. I will go into reception for now. There are different ways. Yeah, so the first thing that is asking me is where are you receiving? And so this refers to the dock. Where is the truck? Because that's the intermediate location where I will receive these products. So I will say dock 1, receiving area 1. And then he finds me, how are you gonna identify your purchase order if you have one? If you don't have one, then you could use this button. We can hide this button. It's a very popular one to hide because some customers say, no, I never want to receive something that I didn't order. So we then hide this button. See, there's a container feature. There are many other features. One thing that I could do is scan one of my barcodes from my product. So if I scan my bottled water, for example, yeah, you can see we can also produce it. In this case, I will buy it. If I copy the barcode here and I scan it here, then he will go into the purchase order. You will see he finds the purchase order that we are in. I can show you. You will see the number here, 559. This is my purchase order number that we can see here, 559. He immediately went in because he found only one purchase order. If we have more than one purchase order for the same item, then we would see a list like this one. So this is behind the order button. If I only have a PO number, then I can also do it that way. I click on the order button. I can type 559, and you can see it's filtering live as I'm typing. If I type 559, he will find my purchase order. I'm quickly going to show you that the system is live and that there is no integration. When I hit this button, he's directly querying the SAP tables. I can prove it to you if I put in a vendor reference, reference 2021, and then I'll put just some random numbers. I'll update, go as fast as I can. Once it's updated, I'm running on a virtual machine, so my SAP is a bit slow. I apologize. There it is, it's updated. I can refresh and the data will be live. So if I type 1911, for example, which is the end of my reference that I just entered, then he will filter and find it. So I don't, maybe it always starts with the same 10 digits. You don't have to always type them. You can just start typing from the end and it's a very intelligent filter. I will select that purchase order and here I can then scan one of my products. In this case, this would be the bottled water. If you don't have a barcode, as some of our customers don't have barcodes on their receiving products, then we have select the product and we can select it from the list and the products that we have in our purchase order. The system automatically generated a batch number for me for the bottled water. I'm briefly going to explain what this is. Today we are the 56th day of the year 21, but this is completely free and we can generate any kinds of batch numbers that you want, but this is just an example of what we can do. We can also do it hidden, that the user doesn't see this, but that the system just does it and that he never sees this screen. So I confirm the system generated batch number, and then I have to enter my expiry date as this product is an expirable product. Now remember that I set that shelf life for reception on 2 years. So if I say here that this is valid until August, I will get a warning saying, hey, this is not correct. The best before date does not meet the required shelf life. I assume you made a typo. Like, do you want to enter a new date? If you hit yes, it will go back. If I hit no, then maybe the supplier sent me something that's not compliant, but I do want to receive it. Maybe you don't want to receive it. So that's again the flexibility of the system. In my case, I made a typo, or I just want to show you. And if I go on to 2023, which is compliant with my 2 years, then it will be fine and he will allow me to receive it. That's it. So he's then asking me, okay, scan it. So here I could be scanning bottles and 6-packs and it would add one. As I keep scanning 6-packs, it would add quantities. Now this depends how you work, of course. In this case, it's 480 bottles. So I think in my case, that would be 80 6-packs, or typing 60 as I say 80. If I would receive too much, so if I would say 81, I will get a warning in my case. Okay, maybe we want to refuse it altogether, but in my case, I'll get a warning saying, hey, watch out, you're receiving more than what you ordered. Did you make a typo, or was it really over shipped? Do you want to re-enter? I'll say no, we'll receive a little bit more, that's fine. We'll receive 486. So I'll say no. And in my case, it's allowed. So what is he doing now? And I apologize that it's a bit slow. It's a PDF printer that is printing my labels. You'll see him appear here. There he is. I'll show you the end result. Now, of course, this would come out of your label, Zebra printer, your label printer. You can see, you can see by the timestamp, it's now 1:36 a.m. in Brussels. So when it just got generated, and it has the exact quantity that we received. Even though we ordered 480, it has the exact 486 that we received. And this is what we call a GS1 label, a global standard label, which has something called an SSCC on it, which is a unique code for this pallet. In the US, they like to call it a pallet license plate. We call it an SSCC, but it's a unique number that uniquely identifies this pallet. So when I scan this barcode later, the system knows everything. He knows how many, expiry dates, batches, everything. Okay. So let me enter the next product, which are the glasses. So that will be a lot simpler because it doesn't have any batches or anything. I did put a receiving remark there. I didn't show you on the item master, but it comes from there. Like, check the cartons for damage, please, because it's glass, maybe it gets damaged. So you can give item specific remarks or supplier specific remarks when we are doing the receiving process. Here I have 3 different unit of measures that I can use. So I have a pallet that's 100 cartons. I have 12 pieces in a carton, and I have the pieces all together. How much did I order? I think 1,500. So that could be, I can make combinations. So I can make one pallet, which is 1,200, and then 300 other pieces that I just received like this. Maybe you want to receive them in cartons. So in this case, that should be the complete quantity. So I don't get any warning here. That's a correct quantity. And it's actually, again, printing me labels. And now it's more than one label. Because like I said, here he knows how much we want for a pallet. And I'm sorry, it's really slow today. There's the first one already at 137. And the second one is there. So we can see the first one will be for 1,200, my full pallet. You can see the number is unique. It's 5054 at the end here. And when we open the next one, it will be a different number. 5061, and it's for the 300 remaining pieces, and that's a smaller pallet. So now at that point, I've reached the last item, and he's now booking the actual receipt in SAP. So that's what he's actually doing. So this is a 100% live and integrated system. So when it's, and I apologize really that it's a little bit slow on my virtual machine today, but when you can be sure that it's going to be booked inside SAP as soon as the scanner completes his task. I think he's slow again because of the print, not because of the booking. I apologize. I can show you what document I printed. I printed like a cross-doc document. That's something maybe we want to ship out some bottles immediately. So I have something that printed out because he saw that I have some open orders. So I might want to keep 70 bottles here because I have to ship it out to Microchips and this customer immediately. But that's of course all optional. You don't have to do that. Let me jump back to the handheld, but mainly jump back to SAP. If I refresh here, then like I said, we can be 100% sure that it's received. And if I look at my destination document, then we can see the exact quantities. And I will show you now the Produmex inventory report. This is one of the main screens that you would use on a daily basis that gives you the detailed inventory. I could filter on items and everything. In my case, I don't need to filter because I cleared out my stock before this webinar. So all I would have there is the 3 pallets that we actually received. So I have one pallet which contains my 486 bottles, and then I have 2 other pallets, one for 1,200 and one for 300 pieces. We can see batch information, expiry information, all of that we can see here. So the next step would be to do the put away, to take the goods from my receiving area and put them into stock, into a racking area. So for that, I will use the put away feature. Where do you want to put away from? Well, it's on receiving 1, okay. So I scan my pallet, and at that point, the system is going to tell me where to put it. So this is my default location. I can then scan my barcode, my destination of where I want to put this item. We can do a lot more complicated things than this, but I wanted to keep the webinar relatively simple. You'll see for the glass, it will be B, I think, yeah, B1. And this is just, in my case, it's just a suggestion. So for the second pallet, he's going to say B1 again, but I can say that I want to use B0102 maybe. And in this case, it's very flexible the way it's set up, but you could make it very, very strict if you want to, okay? If I then refresh here, we will see that everything is on our location now, and we can now sell to some customers. We could have sold immediately from the receiving dock. That's a setting for us. That's not, some customers say, no, we don't want it. Other customers say, yes, we want to do cross-docking. It's just a simple setting on your dock to enable that to happen. I'm going to go a little bit faster because I see we're running out of time. So I have prepared 2 sales orders, one for 60 bottles from a customer, so which is 10 6-packs exactly. And then another one that, and then we give him a box of glasses for free because he's such a good customer. Maybe not for free, but we also sell him some glasses. And then I've made another customer a smaller order who just orders 10 bottles. So for him, we will have to break open a 6-pack and take out 4 bottles and make a combination of 6-packs or boxes and pieces, which is a common thing to do as well. I can make my pick lists manually from here by clicking on this button. It will create my proposal, and as you can see, it will reserve stock. So this is the hard allocation that I mentioned earlier. But I also want to quickly show you the robot. So I'm going to close this proposal again, and I'm quickly going to launch my robot. I'm going to show you where we can see the end result. I'm going to open it already, because you will see that today we don't have any pick lists in the system. And when I look at pick lists, you see it's blank. And when I run my robot, that one goes really fast. You will see he's now analyzing all my open sales orders and looking at my stock. And at that point, he created these 2 pick lists. So he created a proposal first to reserve the stock, and then automatically also created the pick lists. So at this point, I want to pick these together because I know that these are very small orders. Now, I know that many of you will not be doing this kind of operations because you have larger orders. Don't worry, we of course can do that as well. But I wanted to show this as it's a little bit more maybe difficult for other systems. I want to show that our system is really mature, that it can do these advanced scenarios. What am I going to do for that? I'm going to group them into one wave. This means that I'm going to pick them together. How can I do it? By selecting the lines and clicking here on Make New Wave. And then we see that they get the same wave number 94. And that's what my picker will be picking, is wave number 94. He doesn't know that it's for these 2 customers. At that point, he doesn't need to know, okay? When I go into sales, there are many picking options, as you can see. There are even new flows as well available. I will just use the simple picking process in this case. And there we can see our wave, which in this case contains 2 pick lists. You can see the pick list numbers. I open it. You saw it could have printed labels. I don't know if you saw it, but it went very fast. It could have printed some item labels. And then it shows me what I need to pick. Now, I've enabled something called consolidated picking, which means that it's going to tell me that you need 70 bottles for both customers. Okay, some customers say, I don't want to do that. I want to keep it separated. That's fine. In this case, I've said, no, I want to consolidate my picking and pick for all my customers together, and then I will separate it out again. So that's why you're seeing 70 here in one line. This is the locations that we need to walk to with the 2 little feet. So A1 and then B2, and he's sending me to the smallest pallet, I think, from the glass, because that's what I asked him, not to the full pallet from 1200, but to the one with 300. And that's, again, shows you the flexibility of the system of how you want to deal with that. I start with this item. First thing I have to do is identify my cart. So because this is a grouping operation, we have to use what we call a movable location, a cart, because this will be then our starting point to do the packaging later. Usually if you're not using these real shopping carts, we can also make some barcodes for the operators. It really depends on how you work. But in this case, I have 3 carts. Let's say I use cart number 2, which ideally, like I said, would have a barcode that we can scan it. And that's the cart that I will use. Just want to show you quickly that we can have the picture from SAP in here as well. Shows you again the integration. And I can scan my product in this case. my bottled water. I need 70 of them. So I scan this one. And he's trying to help me. He's saying that it's 11 six-packs, which is 66 pieces, and then 4 bottles that I need to take. And so he's trying to help me. If I tell him that, well, there are only 10 six-packs available, because maybe it broke up, then he will say, okay, but then you need to take 10 separate bottles. And so it will be adapted, and he will try to help you as you are doing it. I'll take 11, but it doesn't really matter what I would do here. Okay, so I take these items. These are now picked. By the way, you can follow this live, so you can build some screens in your warehouse to see who is doing this picking. We can see that manager is working on it. This one is completely picked because he only needed water, and this one is partially picked because he also needs the glass that I still have to pick. So I'll do that one now. Other stock could send me to another pallet. So if I want to look at the other pallet, I have another one sitting on B1, but in this case, he sent me to that one because it was the smallest pallet. Okay, I select that product. It's 1 carton that I need. Okay, and at that point, both of my pick lists are picked, and I will do my packing operation. For that, I will start up my touchscreen. And so usually this is a physical packing table where we have boxes that we can fold and maybe wrapping things to our bubble wrap to make sure that the things don't slide around in the boxes, or maybe we're wrapping pallets there and reorganizing them. So it really depends on the size of your goods, of course, and the size of your orders that you're selling, what this physically would represent in your warehouse. Many features here again. We're going to use the item packing feature. You can see there are a lot of packing features. We focus on one specific feature here. I have 2 packing stations. I'll select packing station number 1. And this is my starting point. In orange, it always tells me what I have to do. Scan a movable location to add items. So I have to scan one of my carts to start packing the items that were picked into that cart. So I can scan it here like this so you can see it, cart number 2. And it's showing me the items that are in there. The idea of this screen is that we help you to build the packages, and I'm quickly going to copy the barcode from the bottles just because I want to show you that the idea is now that usually you would take one of the bottles, the loose bottles maybe, because we want to do that one first because it's a small order. So I scan a bottle, not a 6-pack, and then he sees, okay, these bottles are for that customer. Okay, so he knows that the bottle is for that customer and tells me he needs 10 bottles, and you've scanned already one. You could do this like a checkout, like a beep, 2, 3, 4, scan each piece if you want to, but if you need 105, then I don't think you want to do that. So then we can also do 10 here and complete the quantity that we need. At that point, I can add the items to my package. This again builds an SSCC, and I can say finish the logistic unit. I'm ready for this guy. I'm sending him 1 box. He's printing me a label. I'll show you in a second. I'll continue here and then I'll show you both. He's telling me that it needs to be shipped through UPS. Here we can do a couple of things. We can do manual shipping where we have to scan the box when UPS comes. In my system, I've enabled automatic shipping. So when I click on this OK button, it will make a delivery note immediately inside SAP, and it will also print a delivery report, which you can see here. So let me open my label first. It has the address of the customer on it, the package ID. This is a unique package ID. It has 10 bottles inside. We have all the batch and expiry information available there as well. And then when we look at our delivery notes, this one is very simple. It looks like this. Now I'll quickly do the other one because that will look a little bit sexier. So let's build, maybe here we want to build 2 packages. Maybe the 60, maybe we want to do 40 bottled waters into 1 package and say, okay, this package is ready, this pallet. And then we want to build a second package, which contains the 20 other bottles and then the 12 pieces of glass. And so it's completely up to you how you would build your package or your pallet. That's the idea of this screen. I'll just push a bit faster because I want to show you the end result when we have our delivery notes, that it can contain that information about these packages that we have just built. Let me see if this one is the one. No, this was my label. My PDF printer is a bit slow. There he is, the next one. So it shows you package number 1, the 40 bottles, package number 2, and this was my other label for my mixed package. So this is a package that contains 2 items, and that's fine, and it can list you all the detailed information about this package. When we quickly jump back into SAP to show you the end result, if I open my last delivery, for example, it will be this one, and all of that packing information is also available here in Standard SAP Business One. We can see that this SSCC or package ID here has 40 bottles inside, and the second one was a mix of 20 bottles and then the 12 glasses. So this was the process that I've foreseen to show you. Hope that was interesting, and I think we can hand over again to Amanda.
Thank you, Gil, so much for taking us under the hood of Produmex WMS.